Open up your Bibles. We are finishing up the book of Song of Solomon. I've told you this, I'll say it again. This is the best marriage counseling or the best pre-marriage counseling that you will ever get because it comes right out of the Word of God. This is it. This is why we're going through this book literally instead of allegorically. And what's that mean, Pastor? Well, if it is a love story, then it's a love story. It's about a man and a woman. Some theologians, some commentators, they like to say, well, it's about Christ and the church. Well, it's an Old Testament book, so the church wasn't there yet. And could it be about? Yeah, we can make all kinds of allegorical connections, but really, this is a love story between a man named Solomon. And you say, is that the King Solomon? Yes, it was. And a woman whose her name was Shulamith, and she was a Shulamite. Okay, you say, now, wait a minute, didn't Solomon have like a whole truckload of wives? Yes, he did. But at this time when this was written, when this song was written, it was mostly that this was Solomon's first love. He got way off track later in his life, but there's some really good things in Song of Solomon. So we're finishing up with chapter 8. If you're here and you say, well, I'm not married, that's okay. We've had some people tell us how they have gained so much understanding about relationships through this book. And it very much is about a man and a woman and their either future relationship or their current relationship. I like how this book is laid out because as we go from chapter 1 through 8, you can see how verses 1 and 2, it talks about a time before the wedding and things that happened and their desires and how they long to be with each other. And then it goes into some of the next chapters and different things that were happening then in their brand new marriage. And then 5 and 6, it was talking about conflicts in marriage and how struggles, the gal, she didn't want to get out of bed. She didn't want to open up the door. And so how they worked through all that, which is very much a part of our marriages, right? But it also is very much a part of relationship with anyone, how we can work through conflicts and struggles. And then finally in 7 and 8, we're seeing kind of the latter part of marriage. We're seeing them being married for a while. And now as we're getting into 8, we can assume that they are getting on with life. And I think this is a great thing because we can see the path in marriage. We can see how we can act accordingly. And there's a good thing to look at, and that is always, always, always keep the relationship alive. Keep it alive. If you can't, I'm going to say it, keep the romance alive. Okay, does that mean we have to always be thinking, ooh la la? No. Because later on in life, it's a blessing to sit and hold my wife's hand. That's romance to me. Is there more to it? Sure. But things change over the years, and the way things were at the beginning are different than they are at the end of a marriage, and that's okay. So let's get into chapter 8, verse 1. Let me pray. Father, I thank you for this word. I thank you for this love story, for this book that shows us how we can look at marriage and how we can resolve things, how we can act towards each other, how we can grow our marriages in a great fashion. So we give you praise, Lord. Be with us and speak to us this morning as we finish up this book in Jesus' name. Amen. We're looking at the maidens loving words. The maiden is this woman who is married to Solomon. And we're going to look at what she says in verses 1 through 4. But first of all, in verses 1 and 2, this woman, we're going to see her passion for her beloved, for her man. Her man. She wants to have a close relationship with him. And she says this. In verse 1, she says, "Oh, I wish you were my brother." A lot of us are going, huh? What does she mean by that? "I wish you were my brother who nursed at my mother's breast. Then I could kiss you no matter who was watching, and no one would criticize me." Verse 2, she says, "I would bring you my child to my childhood home. And there you would teach me. I would give you spiced wine to drink, my sweet pomegranate wine." Now, she's not talking about her brother. She's talking about her husband. But why does she say, "I wish you were my brother"? Well, in ancient Near East culture, public displays of affection were frowned on except in the case of certain family members. Okay, so this is going to start making a lot of sense. There would be holding of hands. There would be kissing on the cheek between a brother and a sister, a parent and a child. But for a couple, for a husband and wife, you reserve that for at home. And so she's saying, "I wish I had that freedom to just, can I say it? To just hang all over you." She just wants to be with him. She wants to kiss him in public. So this woman wished that her husband were like a brother to her, so that it would be acceptable to display her affection for him at any time she pleased. She has this, her idea here is based on this cultural acceptance of some public displays of affection between a brother and sister. So it was acceptable for a brother and sister to hold hands. That's something that you don't see a lot nowadays. Where you might see maybe two gals, and I'm not talking about, same sex, okay? I'm talking about just two good friends holding hands. Or maybe a brother and sister holding hands. Or a parent and a child holding hands. Or being affectionate with a kiss. We don't see that in our culture today. But she wished that she could be as open with her husband, her beloved, as she would be allowed to be with her actual brother. So that's what that whole thing is all about. This in verse 2, where it talks about bringing him into the house of her mother, she wanted to enjoy the intimacy of married love with her man, but to enjoy it in the context of the approval of the family. So that goes along with verse 1. If you were like my brother, if I brought you into my mother's house, we could sit and hold hands, we could kiss, not sexually, but we could kiss, we could show our love, and it wouldn't be looked down upon by the family. Okay, so that's what that whole thing is explaining here. In verse 3 and 4, we're going to see this woman's plea to those women who are called the daughters of Jerusalem. This gal, she says, she's speaking about her beloved, her man. She says, "Your left arm would be under my head, and your right arm would embrace me." Verse 4, "Promise me," she says, "O women of Jerusalem, do not awaken love until the time is right." Now, his hand was under her head, okay? That's what she's longing for. That's what she's telling these gals. This phrase was used a couple other times in Song of Solomon. In fact, in chapter 2 we saw that, and it describes her desire for intimacy. I mean, you can't have someone's hand under your head unless they're close. Relate this back to verse 1 and 2, the closeness that may not be acceptable. And that's what she was wanting. She was wanting to be close with him. The idea is that she is reclined and her husband is caressing her, maybe touching her face and tickling her face and so forth. Okay, so one hand is under and the other is gently showing her affection. But she says this, and in the New King James, I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, do not stir up nor awaken love until it pleases. Now, this is the third time that this phrase, do not stir up love, is used in this book. It was also in chapter 2, it was in chapter 3, and now in chapter 8. But just like before, this idea can be understood as a plea to leave, that this woman would be saying, leave my sweet romantic dream uninterrupted. That could be one way of looking at it. She's thinking about being close to her man. He has her under his arm, and they're close. And she could be saying, don't interrupt my dream, my daydreaming, my thoughts of love. Or it can be understood in a relationship, as we saw it earlier, do not, if she's saying this to these women, this could be a warning. Don't awaken love before it's time. Don't awaken passion. Don't awaken lust. Don't awaken romance intimately before it's time. And that's a really good way of looking at it, because in our culture today, and for a lot of years, it is very accepted to have premarital relations that should be reserved for marriage. Now, we're going to look next at final words from this couple, this loving couple, also from this couple's family and from their friends. We'll see that in verses 5 all the way through verse 14, through the end of the book. First of all, we see this. We see one of the daughters of Jerusalem, one of the young women of Jerusalem, speaks to the couple in verse 5. And this is what this woman says. Who is this sweeping from the desert, leaning on her lover? So it's kind of a way of, asking. She knows who it is. She knows it's the Shulamite. Her name's Shulamith. She knows who it is. But it's just kind of a flowery, poetic way of phrasing it. Who is this woman who is leaning on her lover? This woman who came from the desert. And it goes on here. So what we're seeing here, this woman speaks this, and then we see this gal, this woman, this wife, she's standing there proud, but we hear her husband speak to her in the last part of verse 5. And he says this, I aroused you under the apple tree, where your mother gave you birth, where in great pain she delivered you. So now he's saying that to the wife, to the woman, to his wife. And it's very possible and probable that this man found her at one time, and he's reminding her, he's talking to her, and maybe in our language we might say, hey sweetie, hey babe, remember the time when you were sleeping underneath that apple tree and I came along and I came up and I tickled your ear and you jumped and you woke up, or something like that. And it just so happened that this was at the place where she was delivered. Why would she be at that place? Well, it was a special place because she was remembering this is where she was born. And now he's telling her, remember when I came up and I woke you at that place? So he's jogging her memory. This bridegroom found her once asleep under an apple tree. He woke her, and this happened to be, as I said, the very place where her mother had brought her into this world, in most likely an untimely labor. Probably she had to act, and she had to act fast. There maybe wasn't time to contact the midwife. And there probably wasn't doctors like we have today. Midwives would have taken care of things. But there wasn't time, so she had the Shulamite, the Shulamith, she had her underneath this tree. And here the bridegroom, the man, out of fondness and familiarity, he recalls these little adventures to her memory. I like that. And guys, that's a good thing. Remind your wife, you've been hearing me talk about Brenda and my relationship. Remind her about the times you came home with flowers. Remind her, and as I said, remind her the time I came to her work with strawberries and chocolate, liquid chocolate, and we sat outside on her break and we ate chocolate strawberries. Remind her of those times when you've done these special things, because there's nothing better than remembering the good times. So this is a good thing to do. Next, we're going to look in verses 6 and 7, and we're going to see this gal as she describes the strength of her love. Let me read in verse 6. Place me like a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm. She's saying this to her man. For love is as strong as death, its jealousy as enduring as the grave. Love flashes like fire and the brightest kind of flame. What's that speaking of? Well, that's speaking of when you are really in love and when things are getting hot and heavy, it's like fire. It's hard to put out. That's maybe why she said earlier, don't awaken love. Don't start that fire, or else you're going to be in trouble. Verse 7, she says, many waters cannot quench love. It's like a fire. It's hard to put out. Nor can rivers drown it. If a man tried to buy love with all his wealth, his offer would be utterly scorned. We're going to talk about that. What in the world does that mean? Well, where it talks in verse 6, set me as a seal upon your heart and a seal on your arm. Using this strong image of a seal, when something is sealed, you don't open it. It can't be opened. It's sealed. There's only a certain time when it can be opened, or maybe by a certain person. So it's sealed for a reason, so you don't get in there. And she's using this strong image here. She appeals to her husband, to her man, asking him to recognize the permanence of their commitment. Well, isn't that a given? Why would she bring that up? Well, married love, love in marriage should be like a seal, never to be opened up. It should be permanent, in the sense that a seal speaks of permanence, it speaks of belonging, and it speaks of security. So she's saying to her man, basically, I want to be secure and sealed. I want to have that security and know that this is how it is. Her love is so total and so strong that she wants their mutual possession of each other to be as lasting as life itself. Now, you might think, well, as I said, isn't that just kind of a given. Why would she bring this up? Think of it this way. We say during marriage ceremonies, until death do us part, right? That's what she's saying here. I want to be with you forever until death do us part. So it's just a poetic way for her to say basically the same thing we say. I want to be with you all my days. We should have a sense of jealousy in our heart towards our love for our mate. Now, that should be a good jealousy. A jealousy that would say, no other. You only will I give my life to, and to me only you give your life to. No other. That's the jealousy that is a good jealousy. Hating anything that might come between him and her is what she's saying. Its flames are the flames of fire, and a strong flame or strong fire. It says, is that in verse, end of verse 6, love flashes like fire, the brightest kind of flame. And here, the idea is that love is like a fire, a great power, and it's useful. Love is useful. It can be used either for good, and it can even be used for destruction. Love has how is love destructive? Well, if love is used in a controlling way, if love is used in a manipulative way, it can not be good. And I want to just give this to you because this is for everyone. There's been studies, sometimes we look at some of the grants that are given to colleges and, grants that are given to people, all in the name of political parties, and doing all this, here we'll give you money, you study on this and all this kind of stuff. But there is some good information that comes out of some of that stuff. And let me just share a couple here. Do you know that by a study that was done, people who are positive, yes, positive in relationship, but people who are positive just in life tend to live longer than people who are not. People who look at life as, hey, this is my life. It will be over sometime in the future, but for now, I'm living my life and I've got better things coming. So that would be kind of us Christians. People who live that way, on average, tend to have better lives and don't always. Now I'm talking averages because we see a lot of Christians that deal with hard things. But on average, people who look positively and live positively and take care of themselves and are healthy, eat healthy, exercise, don't fill up on all the foods that clog arteries, do all the things that you should do. Like I said, exercise, plenty of water, that kind of stuff. Take your vitamins, eating good. People tend to live longer. Now, that's on average. That's a general statement. Because as I said, there are people. But you got to ask the question, why would they be out of the norm? And a lot of times, in fact, studies have shown, why do we have cancers? Why do we have brain diseases? Why do we have heart diseases? And you know what it comes back to a lot of the times? Anybody? Say it again. Stress? Did I hear stress? Yeah, not sin either. The food we eat. Really? Yeah. Studies have shown it. Don't take my word for it. Studies have shown it. Now, again, this is on average because stuff happens. But when young kids have all these diseases and things going on in their lives, and they look at what is the kid being fed? Well, candies and sugar. Sugar is the number one killer. Sugar is not good for us. It's not good at all. Yeah, but it's so good, Pastor. I know it's good. I know it tastes good, and it's hard to give up. But there's alternatives, and cutting back on even some of those alternatives. Sugar is very destructive. It causes a lot of these heart symptoms, brain symptoms. What was the other one I said? The cancers. Boy, you want to if you've been diagnosed with cancer and you want to write your death sentence, eat a lot of sugar, eat sugar. But if you want to try to combat that, eat very, very healthy food. We know one gal that there's diets out there that people use and try when they have cancers, and there are times where that can help. Maybe not cure it, but put it into remission. So it's a known fact. It's a studied fact. All right. How did I get on all that? Well, I don't know. That's I was talking about how love can be used for bad or for destruction, okay? Love has lifted some to great heights, and it has consumed others and left only ashes. Now, if a man would give for love all the wealth of his house, it would be utterly scorned. What verse is that? That is in verse 7. What does that mean? Okay. Remember the song from many years ago? You probably, if you're 40 or 50, you might remember this song. Money can't buy you love. Money can't buy you love. It can't buy you. Money doesn't buy love. If a man did give all his wealth, all the wealth of his house for love, it says that he would be despised, he would be scorned. Why? For reducing love and the person that is being loved to only an object. You're reducing that to, well, if I would give all I own, well, okay, my wealth, my portfolio, let's say it's worth $500,000. Maybe it's worth, $750,000. Okay, well, is your spouse, is your mate only worth $750,000? You see why that person that would do, if they gave all their wealth for love, that's all they're worth? That's all love is really worth? If you set a price of love at $1 billion, you would then reduce it to nothing because all it's worth is $1 million. By its very nature, love must be given. You can't buy it. You can't say, hey, I'll give you $1 million, I'll give you $10 million if you will love me. Yes, you can give $10 million for the S word, sex. Yes, you can give $10 million to have a companion live with you and take care of you and do all the things that might happen in a marriage, but love never is bought. It is always given. As I said, sex can be bought, but love must be given. Okay, let's go on in verse 8. Now we see the brothers speaking. We see this woman's brothers speaking. And here's what they say. We have a little sister too young to have breasts. What will we do for our sister if someone asks to marry her? Verse 9, if she is a virgin like a wall, we will protect her with a silver tower. But if she is promiscuous, like a swinging door, we will block her door with a cedar bar. Okay. Now, the idea here is that in verse 8, it's a looking back by this woman's brothers to a time when she was young, when she was a young girl. They recognized that they had had a responsibility towards her to plan ahead for the day that she would be spoken for, the day of her marriage, as we're seeing in the book of Song of Solomon. And they say this, they say, what shall we do for our sister in the day when she is spoken for? The idea is that the brothers wondered at that time when she was young, they wondered what they could do to prepare and protect their young sister before her eventual marriage, before she's spoken for. This woman, this woman's brothers, took their responsibility seriously. Because long before she was of marriageable age, they determined to keep her pure for her husband. Isn't that cool? They resolved to protect, they resolved to provide guidance and to provide positive pressure to help her remain a virgin. Now, this gives us something that is often overlooked in our culture, that the family has a shared responsibility for the purity and romantic supervision of the young in the family. Because I'll tell you what, this is where a lot of young, even Christian couples get into trouble. Because, it's almost accepted nowadays that the Christian young man, if he has to meet her dad before he gets to take her out, he comes and he shows up at the door, and the guy looks him up and down. Maybe he's got the shotgun around the corner. I don't know, but he's evaluating, is this young man worthy? And then a terrible thing happens. They are then sent off to go places. Oh, we're going to go to the movie, Dad. We're going to go down by the river or the lake. We're going to go here or there. And you say, why is that terrible? They're spending time together to mature their relationship, right? In relationships, and I should say this is for any relationship, what should be done, and especially in Christian marriages, I believe it is valuable, extremely valuable, and it's like it should be this way, that you have chaperones. And you say, oh, come on, seriously? Yes, because many, many, many of you sitting here can say, yeah, if there would have been someone with us, we wouldn't have gotten into the trouble we got into. And it doesn't happen all right away. It's not like, on the first date, we're going off and we're going somewhere secluded and we're hopping in a bed or something like that. It don't happen that way. It happens very gradual. And I'm not going to go into detail, but it might happen with holding hands. Is holding hands bad? No. But if there's an eye there watching, okay, make sure it's just the hand, right? But then many of you remember the days, stupid stuff, where the guy might put his finger or hand on the gal's arm. Remember the words that might have been said? Do you trust me? Come on, you remember that? Yeah. He might move his hand or finger up a little ways. Do you trust me? Yeah. Do you trust me? Do you trust me? And pretty soon, they're going places that they should not. And if there were eyes there, that kind of stuff wouldn't happen. Okay? And if it did happen, though that set of eyes should come over and cuff that guy upside the head and say, what in the world's the matter with you, you pig? We don't treat relationships with respect and dignity like they are meant to be. This gives us something, as I said, that's overlooked in our culture. The family doesn't share the responsibility any longer to watch over these young lovers, this young romance. And they're off going to start their life together, and before you know it, they end up in trouble. Let's look at verse 10. The maiden, the woman, answers her brothers back, and she says this. So remember, they just said, when you were young, we looked out for you and so forth. But she says in verse 10, I was a virgin, like a wall. Now my breasts are like towers. And let me explain what that's talking about in just a minute here. When my lover looks at me, he is delighted with what he sees. Okay, I'm gonna interject this. Why is he delighted with what he sees? You might be thinking, oh, hubba. She looks good. He's delighted with the fact that he sees that she was a virgin. We're going in context here. Keep it in context. The brothers watched out for her, and for him, their marriage, and the husband sees that she was kept pure, and he delights in that. Now, you look at this one phrase here, and in the New King James in verse 10, I was a virgin like a wall. The New King James just says, I am a wall. Okay? But it says, and my breasts are like towers. Now, what in the world? Okay, we've been through this in this book before because there's other places where it refers to this. Okay, is this something speaking of the physical anatomy of the woman? Absolutely not. In response to the brothers, the woman, thinking of her maturity and honorable courtship that she gave, and also now her marriage, that she came into her marriage as a virgin. She gave herself only to him. In response to the brothers and thinking about this, she reminds her brothers that she was and is definitely a strong, defended wall. She's saying, you took care of me, you watched over me, you defended me, you were like a wall that was there, even with the strength of towers. Now, I know the verbiage can get all messed up and things, but the phrase, my breast like towers, it does not intend to describe the appearance of her figure, as I said, but simply connects the idea of a wall. She's a wall. She was surrounded by this wall, a wall that is used in this and in previous verses. Her honor was strongly defended. And maybe you could even bring in, this as well. Those brothers were like towers in the wall. So not physical. You know, we talked about this earlier. When it talks about the breasts, when it talked about the breasts were white as Lebanon, as the hills of Lebanon. You remember that, I think, in verse 7, in chapter 7 or chapter 6. There is no it talked about the towers of Lebanon. There is no towers where this is being described. There's no towers there, but there's this cliff. And because of the kind of stone that's there, it's a limestone, it talked about she was like the towers or the cliff of Lebanon, meaning two things. She was fair, she was white, she wasn't tanned. Well, at least not her, I mean, her face might have been tanned, because we saw that in the early parts of the book. But the rest of her body, her arms and the rest of her body was kept, and it was white. But the other part where it talked about these supposed towers, which actually were cliffs, it talks about a strong geographical area where the enemy could be overtaken, a strong place, a strong area of defense. And that is the verbiage here. Not her physical breast, but her chest. She's strong. She's a woman who is shown respect. She deserves, because she has kept herself. She has been faithful. She's been protected by her brothers. Now she can stand and be someone. She can be someone who other women can look up to and say, that's the way it should be done. All right, let's go on to verse 11 and 12. We got to hurry up here. We're going to see here that she understands her value. Solomon, she says, has a vineyard at Baal Haman, which he leases out to tenant farmers. Each of them pays 1,000 pieces of silver for harvesting its fruit. Verse 12, but my vineyard is mine to give, and Solomon need not pay 1,000 pieces of silver, but I will give 200 pieces to those who care for its vines. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, let's break it down. Solomon had a vineyard. He definitely did have a vineyard. And he leased it out to vine dressers and vine keepers. The idea in this portion of this verse seems to be an appreciation. She is appreciating the cost and the value of something. That vineyard was worth a lot of money. She's appreciating that vineyard was worth great wealth. Solomon's vineyard had value, and so it costs something to use it. If you wanted to glean from it, if you wanted to buy the fruits, you had to pay, and you had to pay good money. But she says in verse 12, she says, but my vineyard is mine to give. The maiden, this woman, she recognized her own value. And after defending her honor and virginity both to these young women in her youth and in her courtship when she was dating, she was then able to freely and rightly give herself to Solomon, which was of high value. It's mine to give. And she says, my vineyard is mine to give. Solomon need not pay 1,000 pieces of silver. This woman's life was her vineyard. She protected it. She cared for it. She made sure it was of good quality. She made sure that the fruits were nice, good fruit. Because she was pure, she could give herself entirely to her husband. Her heart was undivided, and her body was not tainted by premarital sex. And there's this comment here which says, let me read it, and Solomon need not pay 1,000 pieces of silver. Okay. But then it goes on and it says, so basically she's saying, first of all, he doesn't have to pay for me. I give myself, I give my life, I give my worth to him. But then, she's saying here, I would give 200 pieces to those who cared for its vines. What's she saying here? What does this mean? She's talking about her life, herself. She's talking about her vineyard, if you will. And she's saying, I would give 200 pieces of silver to those, my brothers, who cared for my vines, who protected me, who took care of me. Isn't that cool? I mean, the poetry that's in this. And if you don't understand the verbiage of the culture, this stuff would just be flowery talk that wouldn't mean hardly much. You know, you'd look at this, you'd read it, and you'd say, whatever, whatever that means. So it's a little difficult to understand exactly what she's referring to here, but it probably is a way of giving credit to her brothers for their concern and their effort in guarding her honor before marriage. Let's go to verse 13. Because here we see this gal, we see the fellow, we see the guy. He answers his wife. He says, oh, my darling. Oh, my darling. Oh, my darling Clementine. I'm sorry, I'm going weird here, I know it. Oh, my darling. Lingering in the gardens, your companions are fortunate to hear your voice. What's she meaning here? The number of times when this woman was talking to the daughters of Jerusalem, to her friends, and she's saying, oh, my man, he's something else. He's got this wavy hair. He looks good. He's dark hair, and he's strong and he's built. He's built like a rock, and his body is covered with fine hairs, and I mean he's tanned, and he's looking good. But not only is he looking good, he's respected at the gates of the city. He is a man who is highly thought of, probably very much a businessman. Had his vineyards. He was a shepherd, had his flocks. This guy was something else. And she told her friends many times about how good he is. I've got a catch here. I've got a good man. But he says at the end of this verse, let me hear it too. So don't just say it to the women. Don't just talk about me to others. I want to hear what you think of me. So in these last two verses, we overhear Solomon and Shulamith whispering tenderly to each other. And in verse 14, she calls out to her beloved, and she says this. She says in verse 14, come away, my love. Be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountains of spices. Oh, again, we look at that and we say, okay, whatever that means. But she's saying to him, make haste, hurry up, so that they can be reunited together again. Now, again, this is speculation on my part, but, maybe he's a little busy doing whatever, and this whole thing, the brothers are here giving their comments, and the woman is saying, brothers, you took care of me, and now just maybe this man Solomon is talking with the brothers, and they're going on, they're talking, chumming, whatever, and now she says, come on, hurry up, let's go where we can be alone. Make haste, the New King James says. Spices speak of beauty. Spices speak of fragrance. Spices speak of high value. Spices were very valuable. Wealth. If you were wealthy, you used a lot of spices, and it was shown in your food. Spices speak of sweetness. Some spices were sweet. And these are mountains of spices. So does it mean a lot of spice here? It means a lot of beauty. Let's go get together where we can enjoy each other's beauty. A lot of fragrance. Remember, fragrances were used highly. Perfumes, right? A lot of value. The value of the relationship. The purity both them had. The wealth that they were able to use to prepare the home, prepare the bedroom, all the things that we saw through the book. The sweetness of their relationship. The spices spoke of the sweetness, the kind words, the love. And there was much of it. Mountains of all these things. Mountains of these spices. This is how great, how precious, how wonderful their relationship was to this woman. Now, I'm going to close here, but not without giving you my final thoughts, because we're ending the book. As we went through this book, we saw relationship before marriage. We saw the dating and even the longing, the thoughts of the woman, thinking about the day she would be with him and alone with him. She was letting her mind go off a little bit, but she wanted things to be good and right. Then we saw them dating and how they kept themselves even through the dating process. Then in the marriage, we saw the intimacy, we saw the consummation, them coming together in the union of marriage. We saw the blessing that it was. We saw later how there was daily life coming into the situation, and the work that had to be done. And he was gone to the fields to care for the flock, and he had to work late, and he came home, and she's already in bed, and he's coming to the house, to the bedroom, wanting to open the door. Oh, do I have to get up? I'm already in bed. I've prepared myself for bed, which most likely would be dressing way down, okay, very much down. And now I have to get up and put my robe on and put the jammies on and all this. Oh, and then she goes to the door after a time. And she grabs the doorknob. I guess I'll let him in. I've made him wait long enough. And she grabs that latch and she smells the perfume. He wanted to be intimate. He wanted to show his his love, not just sex. He wanted to show his love, how she knew it. He took care of her in that relationship, in that love relationship. And the perfumes were used, the spices and all that were used in that. And they would really actually put perfume on the doorknob, on the latch. So she goes to grab that latch to let him in. She smells the aroma. It sparks her memory. She opens the door, and there he is, gone. And her heart aches. And she goes to find her love. And she talks to others. Help me find my love, my beloved. Where is he? And then they come back together and they find each other, and he isn't angry with her, which can be a hard thing sometimes. He gives her the respect and dignity of, you know what, okay, you had your thoughts and your, the way you were thinking. It wasn't what I was thinking. And she even admits, how bad, how dumb that was. I should have got up right away, but I was playing my little game. And he says, oh, okay, it's fine. And he showers his love on her. And the daily life goes on. And now in the end of life, or later on in the marriage, we see them coming back. We see them with family. We see them discussing the old days. We see them now, let's get away where we can talk about the days when we fell in love. Folks, I'm going to give this to you, okay? There's some things that are very good for your relationships, for your marriage, and for your life. Talk positive. Talk positive. Don't, and I'll make this general and I'll make this specific. Don't talk about all the aches and pains. Yeah, you know what? You got aches and pains. So does everyone else. Yeah, but you don't know mine. I'm sorry. There's always people out there that have it worse than us. Amen, amen. There's always people that are worse off in their physical body. Yeah, but it hurts so much. I get it. It hurts so much. So what can we do about it? We can take, if we need to, take medications. We can take remedies. I like to take herbal remedies and things like that. We can go to the doctor. We can try to resolve it. But it still hurts. Okay, I know it. Okay. But work on it. But speak positive. Yes, we ache. Yes, we hurt. But what's some positive things that we can focus on? Well, if you're married, and if you've been married for a long time, hey, babe, remember when you and me were, we walked down that one path, and I kind of brushed your hand, and we were both so embarrassed, and or remember that time? Remember when we got married, and I was about to put the ring on your finger, and I dropped the ring? Yeah, I remember. And we both bent down to pick the ring up, and we bumped each other's head. Funny things that maybe happened in your marriage. Remember when one of the best men passed out? Yeah, that was funny. Everybody was really concerned, and then we laughed. Think about those good times. Even in relationships outside of marriage, think about the good stuff. Think about the good times and dwell on them and bring them into your speech. Because we could look at our world and we can say, boy, it's messed up. It's messed up in the Middle East right now. But you know what? We can have something good and grand in our life and in our relationship. As life progressed through this book, now they could be coming to a time where in old age, things aren't like they used to be. Things maybe aren't passionate, but things can be, if I can use the word, they can be passionate. Just the tickling an arm, the holding of a hand, maybe the gazing into eyes and caressing a cheek and touching the hair and remembering those days. Oh, he did that. He did that back when. And oh, he loves me. And gals, the speaking nice to your man. You know, think positive. If your marriage, if your life is filled up with complaining, with being aggravated, and I'm speaking to myself, I definitely am speaking to myself. If your life is filled up with nagging and yelling, guys, you yelling at your spouse or cutting them down, gals, if you're not talking respectful to your husband, if you're not showing him that you value him, that's going to affect your marriage, number one. It's going to affect your marriage. And number two, as studies have shown, it's going to affect your life. I said I was going to leave you with this because value your mate, value your spouse, value them highly. Get back to your first love. Your spouse is the only person in your life who loved you purely by choice. Your parents loved you because you were theirs. Your siblings, your brothers and sisters loved you because you shared blood. Your children love you because you brought them here into this world. But your spouse did not have to love you. They chose to love you. Your spouse wasn't assigned to you. Your spouse is not obligated to stay. They stay out of choice and because they want to. It's not obligation. Don't look at them as they're obligated. You know, we're married. Yeah, sure, you're married, but treat them with that kindness and love and respect and loyalty and honor and dignity. Your spouse doesn't have to stay. They should, but it's not a have to thing. Your spouse chose you. Get this, folks. Your spouse chose you out of every single other person on this earth. They chose you. Your spouse picked you to build a life with. Never, never, never treat that kind of love like it's guaranteed. That kind of love is freely given. It can never be bought. It is freely and always given. Love each other with your whole heart. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for this message, for this word that shows us the importance of marriage and a good marriage relationship, but it also shows us the importance of good relationships with other people. I pray, Lord, that we would glean much from this book, Song of Solomon. Lord, thank you for speaking to us. Spirit, thank you for using this book to show us how we can live and how we can apply it. And Lord, I pray for each one here that they would be able to take these words that were given and apply them in some way where it would better their life, where it would better their relationships, where it would better their marriages. We thank you and we love you and we give you